Things have been calm enough. We haven't had as many briefings lately, but we do have an important initiative that we want to talk to the people of Detroit about, so you know what's coming. And before I get into that, a quick COVID update. The numbers today, 29 cases and one additional death. And each death, of course, is a loss to this community, but Detroit remains, I think, probably the lowest infection rate in the state of Michigan, and those numbers continue to be extremely low compared to the rest of Michigan and really the rest of the country, so please keep the masks on. It is working. We want to talk today about something that's been in the works since Conrad Mallett came in as deputy mayor a few months ago, and we call it the Community Health Corps. And here's where it came from. We had in 2015, 6,000 families got foreclosed on. And I went to Lansing, got a lot of laws changed and made it easier for people to get in their houses. But we found even with the changes, the average person didn't know what was available. And with the help of United Community Housing Coalition and the Quicken Foundation and about 40 neighborhood groups, for the last 3 or 4 years, we have had volunteers go out and knock on the door of everybody facing foreclosure and showing them, here is how you can get a property tax exemption if you're low income. Here's how you can get in a payment plan. And we took the 6,000 foreclosures down to 300. It was amazing how powerful it was to sit in the living room, but it told us that for all of the information we had out in the media, for all the mailings we had done, that many of our poorest residents weren't getting the information, whether they weren't on the internet, whether there were literacy issues, whether there were issues in their lives that caused them not to be paying attention. We learned the same thing in March when the governor and I launched the $25 program to get water on. And then Gary Brown and his team went out and knocked on about 8,000 doors of people they thought might be without water. They found about 800 who had their water off because they hadn't paid a bill. We got them all enrolled in the $25 program, but we found nearly every one of them could have had their water turned on under DWSD's existing program. They didn't know about it. And again, it was an important message to us that you actually have to sit down at somebody's kitchen table. But here's the other thing we learned. When we went in on a water issue, the problem wasn't just water. There could be a leak in the roof. They could be short of food. They could be facing eviction. What we found was somebody who has their water turned off, it isn't one issue. There are 3 or 4 or 5 things going on in their lives. Some of them are under the control of the state of Michigan. Some of them might be under the control of the county mental health board. And some of them are within city control. But there was no means of just saying from a family standpoint, what do you need? Here's the other thing. We have a lot of talent in these households. Certainly we've got households where folks are disabled and can't work, but we have way too much talent in this city that is not working. And when you have the conversation, oftentimes it's people say, well, nobody would want me, I don't think I'd have the opportunity, I don't have the skills. And what Detroit at Work has done in a really remarkable way is reach out to folks, and I went to so many of those FCA fairs, and I talked to many young people afterwards who said, I never thought I'd see the day that city government came in and talked to me about what I needed, and people who didn't pass their math and reading test with us, we gave them tutoring, so by the time they got to the FCA test, they are passing at very high rates. So our question became this. Could we start a program where we could reach out to the members of this community most in need, the members of the community who think they're forgotten, and show them their city hasn't forgotten? That we could come in and assess all of the needs and the programs, but also assess the talents and help create a path to jobs and income. And so since Conrad Mallett has gotten here, it's been, I don't know, a 30-day or so sprint to put this together. And we are ready now to try this out. I don't know if anybody in Michigan has ever done this before. I haven't heard about it. But we're going to take the first 160 families, people who right now we know have had difficulty with water security, difficulty with housing security, people that our housing and water departments have already identified as people with multiple issues. We're going to go into those 160 homes, start the program of assessing what we can do to help and assess the opportunities for employment. And assuming that we can make this work, then next year go out and expand to many more. And so with that, I want to turn it over to the person who has taken the lead in putting this together and who can explain it in great detail, Deputy Mayor Conrad Mallett.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. I think that the overview that the mayor gave you is extremely important. It does frame the problem exactly. So, as the mayor indicated, more than 36% of the people who live in the city of Detroit, our residents, our fellow citizens, are persons who live below the poverty line. And in many, many instances, as the mayor indicated, but particularly exacerbated by COVID-19, these persons find themselves isolated from any real supporting contact. As the mayor indicated, there's not, in many instances, there's not awareness of the support that's available. And even if there's awareness, there's not a knowledge base attached to the awareness of, well, how do I go about doing that? What we want to do with this particular program is go out to where those persons are and find them, rather than them having to come and find us. So this is particularly special, I think, and the mayor's vision is really exciting, particularly to the social working community, because what we intend to do is to create an individualized program designed to create stability, and from stability to create success. What we really want to do is get in there. We're going to have a group of persons who are called community health workers / peer counselors, who are going to knock on the door, speak to Mr. Jones, and assess immediately, are there any emergency crisis needs that need to be met? Do we need to provide you immediately food? Do we need to provide you immediately water? Do we need to provide you immediately a safer living circumstance than the one you're in now? All of these things will be possible, and the greater step that will be taken then is to have the peer counselor slowly but regularly working with this client family, back with the case manager, who is going to do an in-depth assessment and then begin with the client. And I really want to emphasize the respectful nature of the relationship that we hope to create, based on trust, based on respect, and really understand what the social services that this family needs and what the social services that this family is eligible to receive. We talked about the door-to-door. The case managers, in fact, are going to be the advocates for these families as they seek out social service opportunities. But just as important, and my partner here, Nicole Sherrod-Freeman from Detroit at Work, which is the framework under which the Community Health Corps is working. Imagine a situation where Mr. Jones, an older gentleman, is there being and living with his 19-year-old son. And the son is supporting the dad and really afraid to leave home because the dad needs services that the son can't deliver, but doesn't know necessarily can anyone else step in his place. If we can solve the father's problem, then there's an opportunity for this young man, who the mayor describes as having, quite accurately, a load of talent, and immediately the Detroit at Works program can take this young man and begin to assess his capability. And so instead of just solving one problem, we now have taken a hold in a wraparound circumstance and really set on a pathway to success an entire family. Beyond that, what the case manager is going to do is, with the client again, is work with the social service agency to ensure that the services that are received are in fact doing the job that everyone anticipates that they're capable of providing. So there is going to be some quality control. At the end of the day, what we also want to be able to do, between the Detroit Ed Works leadership, between the Community Health Corps leadership, is advise our policymakers about the various legal and policy barriers that exist beyond the framework of what we're trying to achieve, that in fact act as impediments to these people finding a better quality of life. This is a simple slide of the structure. What we're really excited about, and the leader of the organization is here with us, the executive director of this effort is going to be a longtime leader of the nonprofit community in the city of Detroit, Sheila Clay. She is going to be the executive director of the Community Health Corps. Her leadership and her long-term leadership of a number of entities in the city of Detroit really gives us great confidence that this is going to work extremely well. If you look at that box that says lead case manager, that's going to be a licensed social worker. And the reason that that's important is that, as the mayor indicated, these families are likely to have a whole a series of issues in front of them that need to be managed. So the lead case manager will lead a team of four, will lead a team of 4 case managers, one of whom has a background in mental health, one of whom has a background in medical and clinical delivery, and then 2 of them are going to be a social work experienced generalists. They are going to be supported by a core group of community health workers / peer counselors who are going to be receiving tremendous training delivered by Sheila and her team, particularly as it relates to something that we're very proud of. 2 things. One, the restorative case management, and restorative is the operative term there, designed, in fact, to lift this family up, to lift the individuals that we encounter up, to restore them to a high degree of functioning personhood, and then trauma-informed care. A great many of persons in the city of Detroit, as you would expect. Poverty, in fact, creates its own stresses. And there's a lot of literature out there that says that great many people living below the poverty line experience PTSD, and these are issues that we hope to confront as well. So, as the mayor indicated, we're going to start with the 160 families identified by HRD and water. We're going to do the outreach, we're going to do the assessment, we're going to do the application with the families for the services that they deserve and need, and advocate on their behalf. We are going to interface with the organizations to be sure that the services meet that need, and then we're going to do quality reporting and, in fact, report up to the policymakers about what we have observed based on the data that we can share with them. We've not done this in a vacuum. We have reached out to the state of Michigan. We've reached out to Wayne County, particularly to the Detroit-Wayne County Mental Health Network, DWIN, I think, Sheila, okay. They keep changing the acronym on me. And then traditional nonprofit social service agencies we've been in touch with. And the outreach has been as much to ask them, are we on the right path? Do you think that this effort is worth all of the time that we're going to put into it? And universally, the answer was yes. They are watchful. They want us to succeed, but they know that this is an incredibly heavy lift. The last piece of this is the Family Independence Entity, led by a young man by the name of Kofi Kenyatta, indicated that it would be important that we reach out to actual beneficiaries of the program. Potentially, we have yet to do that, but we will. So phase 1, we are going to deal with 150 families from the Housing Revitalization Department and the Detroit Water Department. The concept, we hope, will be proved. The delivery system, we think, will be more refined. And as we are able to prove the concept, we hope to be able to convince both federal, state, and other funders, that this is an approach, this is a effort, this is an initiative worth expanding. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it over to my partner, Nicole.
Thanks so much, Deputy Mayor Mallett, and thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity to do this work. So what the Mayor and Deputy Mayor have talked about is this approach where we will get into the trenches with Detroiters who most need it and solve problems one at a time. We will grind out solutions to problems one at a time. And that will get us on a path to building a system of solutions so that Detroiters who most need a hand up and help navigating the systems that can sometimes make life really hard, on top of life being really hard, we've got an approach to that. But what I want to talk about for just a minute is the Detroit at Work component of this, because in addition to helping you grind out solutions to your problems one at a time, and in addition to helping you figure out how do we build a set of solutions so that you create different conditions entirely, we want to talk to you about you. We want to talk to you about what you're good at, what you enjoy, what you want to do with your life. Maybe you'd like to go back to school. Maybe you graduated high school and maybe you'd really like to look into community college or a four-year university or a training program that gets you the skills that are most aligned with what you want to do. Maybe you never had a chance to finish your high school diploma. And if that's a challenge, we've got a solution for that. We are in the process of running a pilot right now where we are paying 50 adults to complete their high school diploma, $10 an hour, up to 20 hours a week, for up to 6 months to get a high school diploma and learn about the new landscape of opportunities in Detroit. Maybe you'd like to think about starting your own business. There is a Detroit at Work Entrepreneurship Training Academy launching later this year. We're not going to try to pigeonhole you into what we think is right for you. We've got opportunities in manufacturing and IT, in healthcare, a whole host of industries, some that you know of, maybe some you've never thought about. The point is, we want to talk to you about what you want to do. And then once we figure that out, we want to talk to you about the skills you're going to need to do that. And we've got training programs, all kinds of opportunities through Detroit at Work to help you build a pathway to get where you'd like to be. Because ultimately, the point of all this is to grind out those solutions one at a time, but also get you on a path so that you don't need help. You've got skills, you've got talent, you've got drive. If you've been living in a situation that we're describing, you are creative and you are resilient because you've figured out how to make it work in the middle of some pretty dire circumstances. We just want to come alongside you and be a partner. And then the third thing is stay in the trenches with you until you get on the pathway that you want to be on. We won't refer you to a training program and hope things work out. That's not the plan. We will stay in the trenches with you, and we've proven that we'll do that with FCA and with so many other employers and with other programs that we run through Detroit at Work. We will stay in the trenches with you until you get to the point where you want to be. And if you aren't ready yet, that's okay. We'll be back. But we're ready to work with your son or your daughter or your grandson or your granddaughter. And if you're at a point where you're retired and working isn't what you're able to do or what you want to do, we've got folks on the Community Health Corps team who will work with you to figure out how to get your expenses down. We might not be able to get your income up, but we can make it feel like there's more money in your pocket. This solution is not just about your problems, it's about your future. Mayor?
All right, and with that, we'll take any questions. Looks like the Free Press gave ML the day off.
Hi, my name is Chanel Stitt from the Detroit Free Press.
Oh, well, it's good to see
Yeah.
a new face here. All right.
Yeah, so how does the city plan on paying for the health corps?
So we have some COVID-19 funds that came in from the federal government through the state, and it was intended to be COVID response, and there were a whole lot of people whose circumstance got worse. And so that will be the majority of the funds, along with some other funds that were in individual programs. The Water Department, for example, had programs, Detroit at Work had programs, and so a combination of taking the funding from the existing programs and the COVID funding. And if we could get Nancy Pelosi and the administration talking again, we could have enough for a significant expansion next year.
Awesome. And then you had mentioned that Detroiters were, in the beginning, were still dealing with water shutoffs. So are there any more Detroiters that are still dealing with that, and how many?
There should not be anybody in the city of Detroit without water today, certainly not for non-payment of a bill. We found 800 people in the city who didn't have water, had nothing to do with non-payment of bills. Their pipes were so broken, they couldn't even have the water turned on. And in those cases, we went to the plumbers union, and Carlos Castiglione, and the plumbers came in and volunteered and repaired the pipes, so then we could get the water on. But if there is anybody in this city without water, if you call the Detroit Water Department, it'll be back on tomorrow, but I don't believe we have anybody unless we are not shutting anybody's water off. If something happened at your house, we'll get out right away.
Definitely. And then how are you kind of determining which residents should be targeted for this help?
So what we have done is ask the water department for referrals for people. When they go into these houses to deal with the water issue, it's obvious there are a lot of other things that are going on. And so we're asking both the water department and the housing department that's gone in on foreclosure issues and on potential eviction issues. And they see a lot of other things going on. You're not being evicted and you don't have any other problems in your life. There are a number of factors that have pushed you to that point. So we're taking 160 families that are already in the programs for either water or housing security, and we are going to use those families as our first 160. And I've talked to the governor about this, and I think we'll see support from the State Department of Human Services and we're actually going to build computer systems across the city and state, so that if you're entitled to a bridge card and you don't have one, the person that the deputy mayor sends in on the community health corps could link immediately into the state system. Those are the kinds of things we're doing. Nobody's ever gotten these different systems to work together as one. And so we need to work these bugs out. What do you do with the community mental health board? And, you know, we had a very visible incident with the individual out on Grand River who attacked the officer with a sword. That individual on the 4th of July had been picked up over a domestic situation, taken to a psych crisis center, and was released the next day. The mental health system didn't follow up. What we need to do is make sure the state system, the community mental health system, and the city systems are all together in one database, so that when that community health worker is sitting at the kitchen table with the family, no matter what the subject is, they can address it. And so that's the plan. It's going to be a lot of different folks working together. I know the governor is very interested in doing this, and she and I have talked about it at length already, and we'll be talking about it again tomorrow. And we're going to see where we go. If we can get these first 160 and work out all the systems, we're going to be in a position to expand significantly.
Definitely. And then how do you plan to get residents' trust as you kind of expand and go from the 160 people?
So we've got I didn't spend a long time looking at the organization, but if you go back to the conversation that we were talking about the lead case manager and the 4 case managers, supported by the community health worker / peer counselor. We recognize that this is going to be a long-term relationship, as Nicole indicated. We recognize that trust is in fact going to be the foundation of our success. So as the mayor indicated, this is not just a, hi, Mr. Jones, we see that you need X, Y, and Z. We're going to refer you to this agency and call us if it works out. Instead, this is going to be, Mr. Jones, let's fill out the application together. Let's make sure that we contact this agency together. Let's, in fact, have lots of conversation on your behalf with your case manager, calling the agency, saying to the agency, how's Mr. Jones doing? How's the progress? How are we progressing? Have, in fact, we reached a point where Mr. Jones is in a stable circumstance so that the talent possibilities that could be enhanced and taken advantage of at Detroit Ed Works is something that he can take advantage of. So this is a long-term, intense process. As Nicole indicated, the key is one at a time. The key is the personal involvement of the case managers, the peer counselors, the lead case manager, the executive director, the deputy director. And as we expand out, it will be because we have learned how to do the foundation associated with creating the trust that you're describing better.
Definitely. And then last question, I promise. How many caseworkers will be working on this?
So
You
in
should
the-
go back to your
I'm
slide.
sorry,
right?
Mr. Mayor, you're right. So, can you see that slide? So, in the pinkish orangish box, 1, 2, 3, 4. So in the first, we're calling this a pod. In the first pod, there is going to be 4 case managers, a lead case manager, and then underneath are going to be 40 community health workers / peer counselors.
Perfect. All right, thank you all.
Thank you very much. How long you been at the Free Press?
I'm an intern, so since June 1st.
All right. Well, congratulations.
For Mr. Mallett, we have one question from Christine Ferretti from the Detroit News. And I'm sorry, I have to pull it back up real quick. I do apologize.
You're going to ask
Oh, you know what?
Christine if she's ever going to show up?
Yeah, she was going to today, but she had, I
Okay.
think, family matter. I'm going to have to get back to that question because several of the questions she had were already answered. But on a different topic, we've had questions from a couple of different reporters, Mr. Mayor, about your thoughts on Mr. Biden's selection of Kamala Harris, and also wanting to know whether or not you would consider a role in the Biden administration if he's elected.
Okay, well, we'll start with the first thing. There is no circumstance under which I'm going to Washington, D.C. There's nothing about it that appeals to me. But the idea of the city of Detroit having a great partner like Joe Biden in the White House, who was our best friend when he was in the Obama administration, and to have Governor Whitmer in the governor's mansion, who's just an enormous supporter. And I've said this before, in the last 50 years in the state of Michigan, there's only been 2 years when there's been both a Democratic president and a Democratic governor. And that was the last 2 years of the Obama administration and Granholm administration overlap when Kwame Kilpatrick was leaving office. You have not had a Detroit mayor in a half a century who's been able to work together with a Democratic president and a Democratic governor. And you think about all the things that Barack Obama and Joe Biden were able to do for the city of Detroit without a Democratic governor. I would love to be the mayor, assuming the people decide to rehire me next year, who gets to work with those. And, Kamala Harris is a great choice. I got to spend quite a bit of time with her a year or so ago at Debbie Stabenow set it up, and it was before the vice president decided what he was doing. And she asked me to support her, and I told her that my bond with Joe Biden was such that if he ran, I would be with him from beginning to end, but that if he didn't run, I just thought she was extraordinarily impressive, and I absolutely could see myself supporting her. And so now I'm in a really great situation. My first 2 choices for president, I get to campaign for both of them. And so I think the party's going to be really well served, and the country really well served by Senator Harris as vice president. And so we'll have a great president, a great vice president, a great governor, and hopefully, if the people decide, I'll still be here as mayor.
All right, thank you. And I did find that question from Christine Ferretti with the Health Corps. And the question was, is the goal of the Health Corps just to reach Detroiters who are maybe in the most dire crisis situations, deepest poverty, or would it reach people as well that may have needs but just not as severe?
Right, no. We are focused on those persons who are on the very margin. This is people 200% below the federal level of poverty. These are persons, as the mayor indicated, already identified by housing and water who need tremendous assistance. And so we're going to focus on this very, very marginal group. The other the other groups of persons actually have proven, as Nicole pointed out, some of them have proven quite resilient and creative in managing the circumstances that they're in. Those persons who are on the very far margin, this is where this program is directed.
Okay, I think that's the last question.
All right, thank you very much.